man rush. Joe sacked! Back at the 33-yard line, sacked by Jonathan Grenard.
That's why you paid that man.
The voice of Pete Bercich, analyst for the Minnesota Vikings radio network. Very much in play last evening.
The analyst.
Seeing it clearly early in the game with the time of possession and the big guys for the Indianapolis Colts and how it potentially would impact them, and it did. So Jonathan Grenard, Pete, has 7 sacks now. And patience was key in that they could not get to Flacco, who had some quick fire to him last night, until late when they needed to get down the field. Then it went Grenard, Jihad Ward with his first sack wearing the colors, and Grenard times 2. What are you liking about number 58 wearing purple and gold?
Well, he's been our most consistent pass rusher, and above and beyond just the stuff that makes it into the box score as far as sacks go and those sort of things. He's been getting a lot of pressure, and he's consistently gotten been able to get pressure, and knowing that he's out there against a guy in Matt Gonzalez who was getting his first start, hadn't played a whole lot, rookie. You would expect that to be a very productive position of the evening, and it didn't. Early on, it didn't really show itself, but the Colts were doing a lot of things, but wanted to protect them. And I think when it got to the time of the game where they had to really drop back and throw the football, and they could get him 1-on-1, it really paid dividends. And that was kind of the cool thing about the second sack that we got by Jihad Ward was the fact that Grenard was outside and then got chipped by a tight end, and then so he looped underneath, and then it was Jihad Ward that came actually from the inside to outside. He became 1-on-1 with Gonzalez and then ended up getting the sack. So it's the same guy for the Colts that gave up all 3. We just found different guys and different ways to get to him. So that's why that performance last night by the defense was so impressive.
Pete Bercich, analyst for the Vikings Radio Network's inclusion each and every Monday, 9 to noon, courtesy of Sukup Manufacturing. It's a farming thing. Sukup.com for more information. SUKUP.com. Sukup. Thank you for the Pete. And also Pressure Points coming up later, 9 to noon. Cam Robinson, the new left tackle, practiced Thursday, and you know how Friday practices work. It's not rough and tumble. Then for the home games, you have a mock game on Saturdays, and that's not rough and tumble. And he didn't play the previous week. In watching back a fair amount of his plays this morning, I thought he came out of the gate with his hair on fire, and I thought he had a penalty, but things seemed to be working well. I think he got a little tired late. Grover Stewart kept getting around him. What did you think?
I didn't see that as much toward the end, but for a guy who just got off an airplane and decided to go ahead and start and play an entire game, I thought he played very well.
Yeah.
I loved the Aaron Jones when he went out of bounds, and Cam Robinson was right there to help him out and get him up and get everybody else off him. And that's a type of attitude that you want out of your offensive line, no question about it. So, Cam he's highly motivated from a contract standpoint, right? He was a franchise player with Jacksonville. He's trying to land himself on a team for next year, get himself a nice contract so he can ride off into the sunset for the rest of his life. To do so, he's going to need to finish out the season very strong with whomever he's with. And, the Vikings were able to pick him up. I thought for a guy who just came in, he did a very, very good job at left tackle. You saw what happened with the Colts with Gonzalez with giving up 3 sacks in a key drive, a key time of the game.
Right.
We weren't faced with that. We didn't have, we weren't strutting out a rookie and putting him out there on an island and saying, good luck to playing one of the most difficult positions on the planet.
Good point.
So he held up well. And I think, yes, he's a pretty good run blocker as well.
So Pete, you being a former coach, is that a coach thing where you show what you show as long as you do it, but then when you really need something, You flood the side of the rookie making his debut at left tackle. He had played 3 offensive snaps all season, 33 on special teams. Is that how coaching works? You just wait, go.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's part of it. And like I said, I don't think the Colts left that young man on an island much in the first 3 quarters of that game, right? They weren't really just a pure drop back. No help from the running back, no help from the tight end. I mean, all those things, that's kind of just waiting for your turn. And when the time comes, and if we get to that point, had the Colts been up by 2-3 scores, they never would have put the kid in that position, but they had to because the game necessitated it. The score did, the situation did. And, we made him pay for it. I mean, the other part, you talk about coaching, a small but kind of very important thing was Cam Akers, how he pass protected and what position he pass protected from in the second half. Right, he was walked up and literally like a personal protector on punt or whatever. He was walked up into that A gap on either side. So that's an adjustment that the Vikings made as well to help with that interior pass rush by the Colts. So yeah, that's the fun part of the game, right? All the little adjustments that are made. And when the time came that they had to put their rookie left tackle on an island, we definitely took advantage of it and ended up being 3 sacks. I mean, that's a huge deal.
I'm not trying to turn this into Grover Stewart fan line, but I don't know.
He's good, man.
I don't know how much he gets paid, but it's not enough. He's fantastic.
Yeah, he is. I mean, we've faced some really good nose tackles this season, some very, very good interior defensive linemen. And I think part of what makes Grover Stewart so good is just how the Colts play. I mean, we're going to see another 4-3 type 4-man front against Jacksonville, but the Jacksonville plays it completely differently, right? The D linemen read kind of what the offensive linemen are doing. They play it a little bit more of a 3-4 or type feel. Whereas the Colts, it's a lot like old school Tony Dungy, man. It's just jet. They just go north and south. They read after they've taken a step or two into your backfield. So for Grover Stewart at his size too, I mean 6'4", he's listed at 315, but the man's got to be 320. Just his ability to go north and south and collapse a pocket is. He's very, very good at that. Is he the best pass rushing nose tackle in the league? No. But he is as good as anyone at just taking somebody and marching their rear end back into the lap of the quarterback.
I'm Pete Bercich, analyst, Vikings Radio Network, at Pete Bercich via Twitter. Follow him as 9 to noon does, please. And this is courtesy of Sukup and Sukup.com. Well, I love the narrative that you laid out very early in the game when the time of possession was getting lopsided. It basically finished, Vikings had the ball 37 minutes and the Colts had it 23. And Stewart didn't necessarily get worn down, but they had to sub him a little more than I think they wanted. DeForest Buckner, I think that was only his 4th or 5th game this year. He absolutely got tired. And when you win the time of possession like that, how frustrating is that for those on the opposite sideline?
Well, it's a huge deal, especially when you're dealing with a defense that is, you look at this Colts defense, where are they very good? And that's with their defensive front, right? Kwity Paye, Deo Adangbo, Grover Stewart, DeForest Buckner, Laiatu Latu, those 5 guys. And we talked about it before the game. They could ruin your night. And Grover Stewart, he did. He we had, Bradbury gets stepped on by Ingram. He gets freight trained, sack, force, fumble, pick it up, return it they return it for a touchdown. They can ruin your night. So how do you combat that? Well, there are so many ways of doing it. One of which is what we saw kind of out of the Rams against us, but it's quick throws, outside runs, make these big guys run and keep them on the field. Then the running game later on, we've seen Detroit do this now week after week after week. That's what they do, right? And it's what San Francisco used to do all the time. It's just the teams, you'd see teams hang with them, and then when they needed a big stop in the third, going into the fourth quarter, it's just like the teams could run the ball at 5-6 yards a clip because those guys who are big, who normally can arm tackle, are tired, and guys get through. So They were 32nd in the league in time of possession. A lot of that's with the incompletions from Richardson and the inefficiencies they were getting at quarterback. We were not much better. Let's see, we're in time of possession. The Minnesota Vikings going into this game were 23rd.
Indeed.
So it's not like we've been dominant in that category. But to see him do that, and then to see Cam Akers come in with fresh legs late in the game, and 38 yards on 3 or 4 carries, whatever, what he was able to do statistically at the end of the game, to me, that was exciting. That, if I'm a head coach and that's what style of football do you want to play, that game, I just love to see us control the football. And then at the end of that game, just be able to kind of wear them out and know that they didn't have a whole lot left in the tank. They had the blitz. They had the blitz to get pressure, right? You backed them into that kind of a corner. And I thought it was a very impressive outing for the Vikings offense in that regard.
And lastly here, speaking of Cam Akers, the demise of Ed Ingram may have been greatly exaggerated, and here's why. He's coming off the best game he's had all season, one of the better games of his career, from what I was told, in the LA Rams game. Then Akers on a 12 and a 13, 25 yards, running very late when you're chewing clock. It was Ingram with the key blocks each time to take it from a 4 or a 5 and get it to a 12 or a 13. So that was early fourth quarter, good for Ed. And finally, late in the game, it was 21-13 Vikings, and Indy was at its own 21. So to the right of where we see it from the Vox box, 9:22 to go in the game. And Dallas Turner subbed for Andrew Van Ginkel. And Flacco tried one of those swing screens left to Jonathan Taylor that he dropped. Remember the play?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Right in the hip.
If Van Ginkel is there, with all due respect to the rookie, if that's Van Ginkel's spot, that's pick 6, number 3. I'm not kidding you, because I've looked back at it 3 times.
Yeah.
Van Ginkel gets there and he gets to the house, man.
Yeah. I mean, he's it was good to see Dallas Turner kind of have a role again.
Yep.
He impacted the game, maybe not again, not in the box score, but he put pressure. He made Flacco hurry a couple times, so I thought that was good. He looked like he was just playing freely out there and running and covering ground and doing those things. So the off the ball experiment didn't work, I think, the way that they wanted to, but they got him back in on the outside, and that helps keep Van Ginkel fresh and some of those other guys. So it was good to see Dallas Turner get out there and run around a little bit.
The analyst.
We're seeing it very clearly last night. That was a lot of fun, and I'll see you at the facility.
That was a fun game. It was a fun game.
I'll see you today, or I'll see you tomorrow at the facility, okay?
All right, man. See you.
Yep, see you, bud. Pete Bercich, analyst for the Vikings Radio Network. Minnesotan Jamie Erdahl, who is over at Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center, where Pete is, so maybe she'll join us from that same studio. She's the host of Good Morning Football on NFL Network, and she had a very, very special and touching moment last night at the football game. We will hook up with Jamie when 9 to noon continues, but first.
The Fan, along with 2 men in a junk truck, want to give you a chance to put $1,000 in your hand with the National Cash Contest. Go to KFAN.com and enter the keyword Bills. The keyword is Bills. You might win $1,000 at KFAN.com.
Yo, wow.
The host of Good Morning Football on NFL Network is a Bloomington, Minnesota native. Comes home, she gets to blow the gjallarhorn to get this going. Good morning.
Indeed, that was Mike Tirico from NBC who called the game on TV last night. Indeed, well done, Jamie, as in Jamie Erdahl, host of Good Morning Football on NFL Network, and doing the last couple of shows, including today from Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center, because the Minnesotan was in town to sound the gjallarhorn last night before the Colts game. And this came after an on-TV invite by Minnesota Vikings head coach Kevin O'Connell about a month ago. So let's start from about a month ago, Jamie. O'Connell joins Good Morning Football, makes the invite, and it caused you to become teary-eyed. Very, very special moment, wasn't it? And Good Morning Football.
It was special. Good morning, PA. How are you? I was just in the hallway in the Vikings facility. I'm still here. They can't get me to leave. Now they've invited me into their house, and I'm like eating breakfast here, and I just saw Rosie and Bercich in the hallway. So everything's just coming up Vikings for me right now. But it was when KOC came on, you know this, I have to say now, I guess the percentage has dropped to 98% of the time on GMFB. I know exactly where the show's going. I'm in control of most scenarios because I got to be able to keep the, train on their tracks. But when KOC started in on an invitation and saying, I love Kyle, I love Akbar, Peter Schrager's my guy. But Jamie, I kind of sat back and I was like, what is this? I don't know what this segment is. I don't know where this is going. I was totally caught by surprise. And yes, I had to make a very professional decision in that moment, whether or not I was going to let the tears fly. And I did, because it was such a big deal. And I think, for any other 31 fan bases, everybody has their deals coming on the field for their team. But I think it was just an amazing moment and weekend for nationally people who watch our show, and to appreciate just how big of a deal it is to be asked to do that. And I feel so honored still.
Yeah, absolutely. And the authenticity of the genuine nature of the reaction is something that people just don't see frequently enough. And you're like, oh my gosh. And you started to tear up a little bit. And I thought it was wonderful when near the end, you're like, oh, when's the game?
When is it? So then he tells me when it is, this Colts game. And I'll be honest, PA, I got to fly back to LA today. I'll do GMFB tomorrow from LA, and then I got to fly to Germany tomorrow from LA to do Giants Panthers on Sunday. So I knew right in that moment when he said, it's the Colts game, we just kind of start to understand the schedule a certain way. I thought to myself, oh my goodness gracious, they dropped this gjallarhorn on me right in front of Germany. Buckle up, Buttercup, everybody in my life. So we got all the kids here in Minnesota. We got to get them back to LA, get them settled, and then I'm going to Munich tomorrow.
Wow. Now, Jamie, when this invite took place, what did your cohorts, Schrager, Brandt, and Akbar Baja Biamila, what did they think? Did they tease you?
They did not tease me. No, they understood. They understand. I mean, this for our show, we just said this morning, this is like a Mount Rushmore moment for GMFB. I mean, we're on the league network, and we get that there is like a certain level of partnership that exists between, but like teams, I mean, this is going out of your way for the Vikings to invite me to do this. And we fully acknowledge how big of a deal this is. And the people that have been asked to sound the horn in the past, I mean, it's not a slight list. And they understood it from a fan perspective, from this being my home state perspective. But also just in the landscape of the NFL, it is easily a top 3 start the game, kickoff, welcome the team on the field fan experience. And I think that is fully recognized nationally. So there was no teasing. There was like full pride, and it has carried all the way through to this morning.
And you and I, when I saw you on the sideline in London, I think we both were busy, but I said this to you in passing, and it comes from the bottom of my heart, is I really like that at NFL Network, they permit you to have fun with your fandom, don't they?
Yes, they do. Yeah, and I think there's a lot of different ways to cover the league. There's a lot of different ways to have conversations about football in the NFL. We just happen to take the approach that we want you to come to our table, and we want you to understand that we love the game the same way the fans do. And sure, we're going to get you to a place of X's and O's and talking about positions and injuries and how the game is played, but we're also going to get you to a place where we get it, what you're feeling on Sundays in the middle of the day when your team is doing great or maybe taking a nosedive. And we cover the gamut. We got everybody's back. But I totally agree with you, PA. And I think it also helps that I'm not from a major market. I'm not from New York or LA. I'm not kind of just like picking a random team and being like, those are my guys. Like, this is authentically who I have been since my childhood. And it just works on the show, and they totally allow us the space to do it.
Well, you Jamie Erdahl, host of Good Morning Football on NFL Network, very, very good show. You well, speaking of channeling your inner child, your inner younger Jamie Erdahl, when you lived here in Bloomington, you came out there jumping around like you were hunting rebounds from your Breck basketball days. You're fist pumping, then looked like your knees buckled at the end of the equation, maybe overtaken by emotion. You gave it everything you had, Jamie.
That was the goal, PA. That's exactly what I did. Kyle Brandt on my show texted me. He's, of course, the curator of Angry Runs, so he knows what it takes to, I think, go to a 10 emotionally, and he sustains it on Tuesdays for 5-6 minutes at a time. That was like probably the most intense 90 seconds of my life professionally. And you are right. When I got the all clear in my ear, when I knew I was taken off of the big board and it was done and the game was about to be kicked off, my knees absolutely buckled. I just had put so much thought into it. I mean, there was a lot of self-scout. I watched every video you probably could get your hands on of who has done this before me.
Come on,
I
Jamie.
analyzed their energy. I wanted to see how they came out of the curtain, what they did. And I didn't have a big plan to do a lot of jumping, but I absolutely felt like I've never had a cooler introduction to a basketball game, like between playing, high school basketball and Division III basketball. There is nothing that equated to wearing my high school basketball number and having my name announced at US Bank Stadium. I had to jump around. Like, it just suited the moment, and I went with it.
Jamie, you shared a great story of gratitude this morning on Good Morning Football. Take us back a decade and a half and the start of a working relationship with the Minnesota Vikings.
Well, thank you for that. So you're right. It was 15 years ago. I had graduated from college in December of 2011, so about 15 years ago. And starting in January of 2012, I gave myself 1 year to get a real big girl job in TV. And had I not done that on TV, and had I not done that, I was going to go into the production route. I really still love sports TV. I wanted to be a producer, but I wanted to do the on-air thing. So that year, a calendar year of 2012, I was doing high school hockey coverage in Wayzata on cable channel 12. I was doing Link Sideline on what was Fox Sports North at the time, Coon Rapids high school football, and then Brian Harper, who is the head of Vikings Entertainment Network now. But at the time, in the summer of 12, that wasn't even a thing yet, or it was just the birthplace of it. Brian Harper, the Vikings, gave me the job. I hosted a Vikings cheerleader tryout show, and it was just a bunch of stand-ups. I was just reading a couple lines at a time, and then I remember sitting in the Champs in Eden Prairie that summer of 2012 and looking up, and the show was airing. It was just kind of summer programming they put on FSN. And looking at that and thinking, like, wow, I guess that's what this feels like. You try, you put stuff on camera, they edit it together, it gets produced, and boom, you're on TV. And to put that year in context, I finished that fall of Coon Rapids high school football, a winless team, unfortunately, and I get hired in Boston, and I go from Coon Rapids to Celtics practice like the next week, and like Doc Rivers interviews and press conferences. So that year of 2012, and really tapping into everyone I knew here in Minnesota to establish this connection. And then for my year to end up getting my first big TV job, and you go from Nesson to CBS to NFL Network. But yeah, a lot of it started with just what I have with the Vikings. And I just love the fact that Brian Harper absolutely had his hand in me being up there this weekend.
Amen. Time for two more. What a weekend for you, Jamie Erdahl. Back home, sounding the gjallarhorn to a rousing ovation, and the Green Bay Packers lost. So, as you said, not cloud 9, that's like cloud 13, right?
Pick a different number, whatever it is above 9, it suits us. How about the NFC North as a whole, though? I mean, I don't think anybody expected if we were going to have a year where 3 teams out of one division makes it to the playoffs, this might be it. And I definitely would not have put my thumb on the NFC North, but I love it. I love that everything's coming up, these couple of teams. I think it's great for every market, and it's a really, really cool brand of football that's being played in the division right now.
Well, I mean, off that, yeah, I don't think the AFC South wants to see much more of the NFC North. The Lions and Vikings are the best 2 teams in the North, certainly as of now. 3-0 against the AFC South by a combined score of 107-34. So, I mean, wow, the North is just taking it to the South. All right, last one. Fellow Minnesotan Tom Pelissero also doing great work for the network. There's Minnesota flavor up and down the day with NFL Network, isn't there?
Indeed. Yeah, they. I guess they like the good Midwestern Minnesota work ethic coming out of Minnesota. Yeah. No, they. Pelissero's awesome, and I put him as another one. I mean, I was answering phones for KFAN at a time that Pelissero was coming through, and he was always really a pillar of people that were born and raised here, and definitely had that connection to NFC North, but took it to a national level. But the fact that he still lives here, and this is his home base, and we get to work together a lot on GMFB, and we talk some smack from time to time, which really, embodies the Minnesota nice on a national level. But I love the fact that Pelissero and I are buddies in real life, but also when we go to work, too, on the NFL Network.
Well, you are terrific. And safe travels west, then safe travels farther east over to Munich for, seriously, the Panthers and the Giants. Who could ask for more?
Giants, Panthers, PA. Just say it with me. Giants, Panthers.
Giants, Panthers, oh my. Welcome home, safe travels, and we'll talk soon, okay?
Thanks. Appreciate you.
Yep, see you later. Jamie Erdahl, who sounded the gjallarhorn last night. You got to find the video. It's all over Twitter. She's jumping up and down with like a 24-inch vertical, pumping her fist. I mean, she was so into it. It was just a beautiful sight to see.
News to Nord brought to you by The Casino at Canterbury Park, CanterburyPark.com. Poker, blackjack, and table games all year round. NFL Pick'em game on Thursdays. They got cool events really throughout the year. So go to CanterburyPark.com for more details. PA, we'll start with the Howl. The Wolves got the best of the Nuggets on Friday, but Saturday against the Spurs, they just looked a little bit sluggish. They were outboarded by 12. Spurs shot over 50%, just really couldn't steal extra possessions. Not immense movement in this game as well. So they end up taking the L there, lose by 10. They're back at it, back at Target Center this evening for Charlotte and LaMelo Ball. I think the entire league's playing tonight because of voting day. There are no NBA games tomorrow, but we get the treat, a Monday night treat of Wolves and Hornets.
Yeah, I ain't tripping on that Spurs loss. Kind of the same thing happened last year. I can't remember if it was on a back-to-back. This was, the Nuggets game was very physical and very emotional. Then they travel and they play a young Spurs team that they would beat 7.5 out of 10 times. They didn't get the money on Saturday, the rebounding piece. Keldon Johnson off the bench, showing a spark he hadn't shown all year. Wemby stepping back from 3. The Spurs on a given night can beat a lot of good teams around the NBA. So the Timberwolves should be able to handle business this evening. Then they get a couple of days. They travel to Chicago to take on the skeletal remains of Lonzo Ball. It'll all be good in the hood here shortly.
To the Minnesota Wild, they beat the Lightning 5-3 on Friday night. They go overtime against the Leafs. It was 1-1 after 1. Hartman for the good guys, Nylander for Toronto. Goes to OT. Here's the winner.
Carrying in. He'll feed Boldy left side. Drop back Rossi. Has a lane. Trying to cut past the check. He lost the puck. Doty taps it open ice.
Hey.
Trying to win the foot race, and he will. And he'll spring it ahead. It's a 2-0. Boldy from Rossi. Boldy, and he scores!
Bruh.
What a play by the captain. And what a finish by number 12.
Boldy went backhand, forehand, top shelf. After Spurgeon won the foot race, lobbed it ahead. Rossi found Boldy, and he beats Stolars cleanly.
Hey, state of hockey's on fire right now. The Wild are not beating the worst of the worst teams. I mean, as a matter of fact, they're going to go out west later this week, and they got San Jose in the mix. We got to get Staylock maybe for a game at San Jose.
Oh, yeah.
Check out the Shark Tank. And then they go back-to-back, I think, Anaheim the next day. they're beating the Leafs. They're beating the big timers.
Yep.
And this is a team now through 11 games that has points. They've only lost in regulation once this year. Points in 10 out of their first 11. The Minnesota Wild got it all cooking. You were talking whether it was Russo last week and beyond, John Hines, head coach. I mean, Kirill Kaprizov has an opportunity to be among the highest points getters in the NFL or the NHL this year. That's the pace he's on. The goaltending from Gus Bus is good. Flowers getting his flowers in Pittsburgh. I mean, really good times for the hockey team, and they close out this home stretch. Why don't we close it out with a victory against the LA Kings? That'll be tomorrow evening.
And that'll be against Fiala la 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 la. Yeah, you're right about the level of competition. They when they were on the road for the 7-game bender, they beat the defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers. They've now beaten the Tampa Bay Lightning twice. And Toronto with all those high enders. I mean, that's a heck of a victory to be able to steal 2 out of that thing. How about this? Wild 8-1-2 and 4 points behind Winnipeg.
I always love that one.
Your peg is 11-1 with no overtime losses. Break up the peg with 59 goals and only 30 against. That's good. That's good work north of the border. And secondly, Joe O'Donnell, play-by-play voice for the Minnesota Wild on KFAN.
Fox.
That was a hell of a call right there on that highlight that Nordo played into the Wild commentary. Joe, very, very well done.
Well, with the way they're playing right now, Joe has to be in midseason form because it is good times for O'Donnell's club.
Yes, sir.
We'll finish up with the NFL, some news bits and such here. Dennis Allen, it's been reported, head coach of the New Orleans Saints, has been fired.
Really?
It's the 7th loss in a row, and this I saw this bouncing around. I see so much stuff when I'm doom scrolling on X that sometimes it's accurate. Someone can tell me if I'm wrong. Covenant cleanup for the 5th time today.
You're the only person I ever hear say that, and I love it every single time you say it.
I'm looking for information, and I end up leaving sadder.
Doom
sometimes.
Scrolling. And you know what? They can go ahead and get done with this election tomorrow night.
Anytime now.
Yeah, so this whole, I don't even doom scroll. I get like pulled into the doom scrolling.
Wednesday morning, we're hoping for sunshine. 7th loss in a row. It's like their worst losing streak since 99. Probably time to blow the thing up. So some coaching changes, whether it's Dennis Allen in New Orleans, Luke Getsy, the Raiders OC. I think he came from Chicago. Maybe that's right. It's been reported that he's out. Might not be the only change there as well for Antonio Pierce's team. I believe they got cooked by the Bengals yesterday.
Yeah, they got smoked.
So tough times in the 7-0-2, and that's not just for me when I'm sports betting. So some coaching changes, and then, well, I wonder what's on the horizon for these guys because Zimmer's group, speaking of getting cooked, they got kirked.
Snap to Kirk. Here they come. Got to get rid of it. Lob for Mooney. Caught. 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown, Atlanta. 4th and 1 is the home run ball for Darnell Mooney.
Oh, that's so beautiful with the Falcons on the call. That's when I texted you, PA, yesterday, because I don't know what your Sunday schedule is. You got a lot of stuff to do. Eventually, you find your way to the stadium, of course.
I watched 2.5 quarters of that thing.
Okay, perfect. I hope you saw that TD. I hope you saw
Mooney?
Trayvon Diggs.
Yeah, he's an L.
Who had no idea what he was supposed to do, who he was supposed to cover.
Yep.
It was absolutely perfect. And for all the love and hate on Kirk, you know how many times we've seen him sell play action? And we like Sam.
Yeah.
Kirk finds Addison for the 60 piece, if you know what I mean.
Whether he does it at $100 million.
Remember that Raiders game where he goes play action, boots to the left, near side, Adam Thielen far side in the corner at US Bank?
Yes.
That was the kind of gotcha play that Kirk Cousins just slammed down Mike Zimmer, Cowboys defensive coordinator's throat. They win 27-21, and good luck to the Cowboys because Dak's hurt. CD left with a shoulder thing. He did come back, but they're going to evaluate him, and they got Philly coming to town. It's ugly in Big D.
We don't want to be too late for PJ.
Yeah.
But so are you saying that you would prefer Cousins here over Darnold? Cousins at $100 million, Darnold at 10?
I'm taking Sam 7 days out of the week.
And secondly, we were talking about doom scrolling on Tuesday night.
Yeah.
You said hopefully we wake up Wednesday and it's sunny and it's bright. What did you mean by that?
Well, it's gonna be a rainy day. I checked the forecast. You know how diligent I am about those weather reports during breaks. Those 5 seconds of really important intel, as if people can't just look out the window.
Yeah, when you talk about winds of change.
Winds of change.
Yes.
and winds of change could be in the air where a rainy Tuesday gives way to a sunny Wednesday.
I thought one of the great quotes after the game came from Atlanta Falcons head coach Raheem Morris when he was analyzing Kirk Cousins' play. He had this to say.
Oh, my God. Kirko, chill.
PJ Fleck's team has won 3 consecutive, and they
Four consecutive,
and they plan to stay that way this week. And let's catch up with the head coach after this on KFAN.
And Rosemer will take one snap and the kneel down. That is it. Good friends PJ Fleck and Brett Bielema will run to the center of the football field. Bielema on a dead sprint. He wants to yell at the back judge as he's following him toward the goal line. But how about that win for Minnesota? They notched the win 25-17.
The voice of Mike Grimm, the box, calling Golden Gophers football games for KFAN and Learfield. And he called PJ Fleck's team into the winner's circle for a 4th consecutive game. They beat Illinois over the weekend at Champaign. And friends and family football continues for PJ Fleck this week. It's Rutgers and Greg Schiano. We'll get into that momentarily. But now 6-3 on the season. The Gophers are bowl eligible for the 6th time in 7 full seasons, excluding the COVID year under PJ Fleck. And the victory for PJ, 33rd in Big Ten play at Minnesota, passing Glenn Mason for 4th in Golden Gophers history. PJ, congratulations on the victory. And I mean, you guys have committed 0 turnovers, 3 consecutive games. It's the first time that's happened in more than 20 years. Congratulations, and what goes into that?
Well, PA, thanks for having us on the show. Huge Vikings win last night. Great to see that. The big thing for us is, we teach our players, like, what makes games won and what makes games lost. And it's very simple. The ball, tackling, and explosive plays. And you look at the NFL, usually who wins the turnover margin wins the game. If they tackle really well and break tackles, they're probably going to win the game. If they create more explosive plays and eliminate explosive plays on defense, probably going to win the game. And those are the things we emphasize. And the ball is number one. The takeaways will absolutely crush you. We were able to be +2 against Illinois, and that's why we won the game ultimately. And, one gives us 3 points. We get a +3 advantage on that. We get a field goal after the takeaway, and the other takeaway ends the football game. You never get to see the next play. So it's really, really important. We emphasize it, but you usually get what you emphasize. But when you're emphasizing such difficult things to get, like the ball, because that's partially under your control and partially not, you have to make sure you take advantages of the ones that you get. And I think our team has done that. We had a team at Western Michigan in 2016 that didn't turn the ball over at all until game 8. So that's why they were undefeated. And so we've just got to continue to play really clean, smart football, but just do it a little better. And that's what this team is focused on, doing things better and being more productive. And I give them a lot of credit because that's hard to keep the external out and the internal out, but this team has done that.
Amen to that. And that was beautifully explained. And, I heard Cody Lindenberg interviewed after the game on the radio with Justin Gard. And I've heard interviews, either TV or radio, over the last month. And a common thread with these kids, like Lindenberg, with the pass coverage and 3 passes defensed, an all-time high for him. They deflect it to the team. They deflect it to others, feeding off others. And that's a common thread, and it's authentic, and that's hard to get sometimes. That's important, isn't it?
Well, it's incredibly important. I think that's the ultimate deciding factor of winning is how good of a team are you? There's a lot of groups that are playing football right now, but who are real teams? This is a real team. Win or lose, this is a real team. Dragan Kesich misses a last-second field goal at North Carolina game 1. The first person to meet him out was Cody Lindenberg. And the first thing he said was, "I love you." That's it. I mean, we don't win that game without Dragan Kesich going 4 for 4 this past week against the 24th ranked Lions. When you're playing for each other, that's very different than playing for something.
Right.
There's a lot of people playing for something rather than playing for each other. And when they play for each other, you're more likely to get something, not the other way around. And this team has been playing for each other from day one.
Right.
And win or lose, they just keep doing it, PA.
It's the do your job mentality. Trite as it may sound, it matters in the ultimate team game. You got NIL all over every program. I got to get mine. People want to get to the NFL. I got to get mine. So therefore, when you can get a cohesion like that and a collaboration within your culture, and it's palpable and you can feel it like you can. That's beautiful. And we were talking about those turnovers or lack thereof for your offense. Ja Joyner, he wins the game on the strip sack. And correct me if I'm wrong here, but it was limited duty for Joyner, right? It seemed like he pushed through something during that game, didn't he?
Well, I think everybody at this point is pushing through something. I think we've also evolved in our versatility and depth on defense where we can, if you saw Cody Lindenberg playing a little defensive end, we're evolving into getting other personnel on the group based on what every individual has. But that's the depth of this team and the versatility of this team is we don't have to play guys 65 snaps a game. And I think that's what makes us unique. And the health of our football team is really, really important. And our guys take that very seriously. And some of that you can control, some of you can't. But Ja Joyner started that game, and he ended that game.
Yeah.
And that mattered to us and him, and he's a very selfless teammate, that's for sure.
Hey, I may have missed something here, and if I'm wrong, I apologize. After the strip sack and you won the game, why'd you call the timeout?
I usually do that. I usually do that just because if there's a last second, like we pick a ball off and then we have to go back on offense.
Mm-hmm.
I like to call a timeout if I have one there, just to get everybody settled down, get the offense together, get ready for victory formation, and make sure they understand, like, hey, the game's not over yet. I like that because there's so much that everybody thinks the game's over. There's so much energy and emotion going on that I want to bring everybody back. And sometimes they don't give you a TV timeout after that. They just start the clock.
Yeah.
So I like to use a timeout. I've done that my entire career. Sometimes I use it, sometimes I don't. It just depends on if I can get to my offense, get them organized, get everybody settled down, because it is such a huge emotion swing at that point, and I want to make sure everybody stays in that moment.
It was a gritty win at Champaign, in my estimation, and I love that Kerry Brown sequence late with the tackle for loss, then the pass defense. What do you think about that redshirt freshman?
Well, I think he's really, really special. I think Aiden Goosby's really special. I think Coy Parrish is really special. Darius Green, who's hurt right now, is a really special player who's leading those guys. That room of the safeties is one, they have a massive tradition to uphold. The Antoine Winfield Jr.'s, the Tyler Nubens, the Jordan Howdens. That's a huge tradition to uphold, especially over the last 8 years. And Danny Collins, our safety coach, does such a great job of teaching, educating, motivating, demanding, and those guys respond really well to it. But that room gives us the versatility to put three safeties on the field at times because they have such unique, special skill sets. Coleman Bryson is another guy who allows us to put him down in the box at linebacker at times, but he's also a strong safety. So there is a lot of versatility on this defense, and we're using that later in the season as we continue to move forward for simple us, complex opponent.
Your time for a few more here for PJ Fleck. His squad has won 4 consecutive and has gone to bowl eligible. By the way, I might have missed it earlier, PJ. Which bowl do you prefer to go to? Did you share that with us?
No, I'll never share that. I listen. We'll look up at the end of the year and we'll figure out. They'll tell us where to go. We don't get to pick; they tell us.
Yeah, I know, but you could have a preference. I mean, PJ, it's me. It's you and I, a couple of football guys chatting, man. Come on,
just two guys just having a beer. That's just right now, just me and you having a beer.
Darius Taylor with that 131 and the touchdown on 22 attempts. The 9 receptions. I think it was like 58, 60 yards. The 9 receptions, one off a career high. He's smooth on those routes, isn't he? I mean, I watched him run an angle route where I think he went left and darted where the linebackers are and caught it for a nice little game. But, he's sharp with these routes, isn't he?
He really is. He's a high school receiver that was converted to a tailback later in his high school career. We just have different backs than maybe what we've had in the past. I mean, Darius and Muhammad Ibrahim are very, very good backs, but they're very different backs. And you have to find a way to form your offense based on what the strengths and talents of those players are, and then multiply those talents. And I think Greg Harbaugh, our offensive coordinator, has done a great job of doing that. I mean, Darius touched the ball 31 times. He just touched the ball differently than Mohamed would have touched the ball. Mohamed would have had 31 straight carries or 31 carries. We can distribute the ball to him in the pass game, which then allows people to scheme or Daniel, Elijah Spencer, our tight ends very differently. That allows Max Grosmer to have more options. And I think him and Max have a really good connection. Marcus Major is a really good route runner as well. So I think we just have different backs than we've had in the past, and we can highlight them in different areas than maybe we've done. And that's where I think our offense has evolved.
Now, lastly, help me with this. Navigating defense, PJ, in like the final minute and change of a game, when you're holding a one-score lead, what's your philosophy on the balance between laying back and rushing, say, 3 or 4, or sending extra guys?
I think there definitely is a balance. I think it depends on who the quarterback is of the other team, how fast they can move the ball down the field, what are the playmakers like, how has the game transpired, and how has it unfolded up to that point. And then if you are going to bring pressure, can your pressure get home and actually make an influence? If you're not making an influence and you're just bringing 5 or 6, then you're leaving the back end really exposed to ending the game. So I think there's a balance to it. I think we've been very balanced how we've approached different games that have come down to one possession. And I think that's what game plans are for. If we get in that position, we're already having our philosophy ahead of time. We can then tweak our philosophy based on how the game has gone and in that moment if we need to. But we have a pretty good understanding that if we get in those positions, what we want to do.
Lastly, Parker Fox, power forward for Ben Johnson's team. He stops by every Monday at 11, and he loves to chop it up with the head coach, PJ Fleck. At Rutgers next, the Scarlet Knights have lost 4 consecutive. Their coach is Greg Schiano, and I know PJ and Greg go back a decade and change with Rutgers and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but the power forward wants to talk about a quarterback, Parker.
Hey, PJ, obviously, a huge win for you guys last week. As as PA mentioned here, there's a lot of familiar faces in Piscataway, Greg Schiano, Kirk Soraka, and Ethan Kaliak-Manis, to name a few. How do you guys keep those emotions in check and focus on winning a football game and going into SHI Stadium to win a very important football game?
Yeah, our focus is on ourselves and always has been and always will be. The challenge every year is great, no matter what and who you're playing, to be 1-0. And that's whether it's basketball, whether it's football, it's hard to win. And our focus, they have a bye week and they have an extra week on us. So we've got a lot of making up to do, and we got to do it in a very short amount of time against a really good football team. And that's going to be the challenge. And we've got to get moving on that. We have, and we look forward to continue to dive into our game plan today and a lot of players in and out, taking care of their bodies, but also making sure that, we can put the best game plan for those players together on throughout the week, practice it, and hopefully get it really good come Saturday.
It's Nashville for the Music City Bowl, isn't it? I think Heather might want to go to Broadway Street in Nashville, maybe catch a Predators game. That's the answer, right?
Yeah, Heather's very versatile. She loves a lot of cities, a lot of different countries, so she's very eclectic in where we travel. So she's not going to have a preference. I promise you that.
You're awesome. Congratulations on the recent success. And by the way, congratulations on passing Glenn Mason for all those Big Ten wins and stuff and getting this team bowl eligible. That's a fantastic job. Very well done. And we'll chat next week, okay?
We really appreciate the time. As always, row the boat, Sky Mile, go Gophers, and Skull Vikes.
Indeed. PJ, super happy about the team's 4-game winning streak. Parker Fox, his basketball team is yet to lose. He has a game Wednesday, and we have many things that we will chop up and about which we'll chat with Fox and the Vox around the corner on K.